Well, welcome to Make the Right Choice, Understanding Glass Performance Metrics, brought to you by Technical Glass and Aluminium, a leader in processing of glass and the supply of aluminium facades across the Middle East. Well, in today's rapidly evolving architectural landscape, especially here in the Middle East, the materials that architects choose in their design are more crucial than ever when it comes to sustainable and green building considerations. Well, as we strive for both aesthetic brilliance and environmental sustainability, understanding the nuances of architectural glass performance metrics becomes more essential today than in the years gone by. Well, in this webinar is designed to guide you through the intricate world of high-performance glass coating that not only reduce solar heat gain, but also enhances the sustainability of building design. Whether you're designing or deciding on the right U value or the right shading coefficient, today's discussion is going to help you, equip you with the knowledge to make informed decisions that meet your design needs while upholding the highest standards of sustainability. Well, join us as we take a look into the specifics of every architect should understand in their quest for the perfect balance between form and function. Well, my name's Phil Higgins and I'll be your host for the next hour. And we really appreciate that you've taken the time to join us today. We've got a lot to discuss, and it truly is my pleasure to introduce the panel that has joined us today from Technical Glass and Aluminium. We have Mazen Ezzedine. He is the Glass Division Sales Manager, an experienced professional who leads an amazing team here at Technical Glass and Aluminium. We're also privileged to have two of the industry's superstars. I was going to say rising stars, but I think they've already risen, these guys, but they are superstars in the field of glass performance technology. Joining us today from Guardian Industries, Jasmine Hodgitz, the Marketing Director for Europe and the AME region. Also joining us, Karim Malouli, the Architectural Design Manager at Guardian Glass. I've personally known both of these guys for several years, and it truly is really appreciated that you have both joined us today. Well, before we push on with the technical discussions, I've asked Mazen and Jasmine to give us a brief introduction to TGAC and Guardian Glass to help us understand a little bit of their companies and some of the recent developments that they've taken throughout the region. Mazen, over to you. Why don't you share your screen and join us here and talk to us a little bit more about Technical Glass and Aluminium.
Hello, guys. Thank you, Phil, again. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have this, and thank you, Phil, for organizing it. Thank you for the amazing Guardian team for joining us today on this webinar. As Phil introduced, my name is Mazen Ezzedine. I'm the Technical Glass Division Sales Manager, and I would like to take this chance to briefly introduce Technical Glass, quickly introduce Technical Glass for you. Of course, Technical Glass has been in the industry for a long time. We've been around since 1989 with the first glass factory that we started in Sharjah. But the more interesting thing is what happened 4 years ago when we moved to Jabal Ali with the new glass factory. However, just to say that Technical Glass is a group of companies specialized in everything has to do with the facade industry shaping projects, basically, with our aluminium, secondary steel and fire-rated solutions, and of course the glass. In the UAE, we have a group of 4 factories. Each factory is specialized in a special line of the industry. What we're looking at is our aluminium division, or what we call the head quarter of our group of factories. This is Factory 1 Aluminium, and this is the glass factory, which we'll be talking about a little bit more, basically. Also in Jabal Ali, this factory commenced in 2019 with a special line, with special sizes that I'll just talk about briefly. In Qatar, we have also 3 factories: a specialized aluminium factory, Qatar Technical Aluminium, Technical Glass and Aluminium factory in Qatar, and of course the metal and fire-rated factory. A recent addition, the most recent addition to our group of companies is Technical Glass and Aluminium in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, where we hope to cater for the rising demand in the facade industry in Saudi Arabia. This factory will be fully commencing very soon. It's already in progress, putting everything together, and soon will be producing in Riyadh as well. The fire-rated and secondary steel and metal factory in Dubai as well as in Doha. This is inside Aluminium Factory 1, huge setting where we do the traditional assembly and fabrication of aluminium panels together with the glass panels. And inside Factory 2, Aluminium in Jabal Ali, where we cater for special, complicated project, unitized panels, jumbo sizes, a specialty factory in that. Now, inside the glass processing factory, as we said, this was a special factory that was put together in 2019 and commenced with top-of-the-line CNC machineries from top suppliers around the world. And obviously, what is special about this, as Phil highlighted, is a capability to process glass in one piece up to 12 meters in length and 3.3 meters in width in all different glass processing solutions, all the way from cutting to edging, polishing, drilling, digital printing, ceramic, lamination, autoclaving, and obviously tempering lines and into IG panels. We've been actively producing these sizes since 2019 and supplying these sizes to the region and international as well. This was a game-changing, basically, factory, because before this factory, the market at the region has been used to panels up to 6 meters in height and only 2.8 meters in width. So we are proud to say that we've opened new horizon in the industry and allowing architects to dream bigger and clients to change the perspective how the project should look like. And there's a really rising demand in such sizes. Just to mention, Technical Glass is actually a member of a group of companies with a very strong backbone, a very old group of companies since the 70s in the region in different business lines that include food commodities and supermarkets and furniture, and of course all the facade factories that I've mentioned in Dubai and in the region in general. As I said, this glass factory does everything that has to do with the glass, all different processing from cutting all the way to printing, lamination, IG, ceramic rollers. And to mention that, as you can see on this slide, what we're trying to showcase here is the specialty in the printing that we can do with what we call the sharp metallic or shiny colors, which can be used in the internal applications as opposed to the traditional printing on the external facade. There were options as the Ferrari red, the true gold, the real metal silver colors can be produced. And this is a very challenging colors to be produced, and not all machineries or factories can produce these colors. And again, with up to 11 meters, up to 12 meters and 3.3 in width. A small glimpse, a brief glimpse at some of the iconic projects that we have fulfilled over the last few years. Of course, I'm going to show just a limited number of projects. We've done much more. I can proudly say again that we've helped shape the projects in this region of the world. We supplied many different projects. Of course, the Greek area has had a lot of, we've had a lot of supply to this area. The harbor views, another iconic project, of course, in Qatar is the Qatar Tower, which was completed 3 years ago, and in collaboration between all our factories in the region, special facade, super jumbo facade up to 7 meters, and an iconic project that was fulfilled by Technical Glass. And another project in Doha is the Doha Oasis, fully enveloped by Technical Glass and all the external facade elements that we can see. The Creek Edge, again on the Creek Harbor. Marsa Al Arab, but the Quay Villas, I would say, which are the mansion villas, the 9 villas along the shoreline of Marsa Al Arab, fully enveloped by Technical Glass, aluminium, glass, and metal works. Al-Hattur City along Sheikh Zayed Road, also a unitized project, full supplied, full assembled and put together in our factories in glass and the GRCs and all the facade elements, and then delivered to site and erected as one full unit on site. The Icon Bay, again, harbor views. One of the iconic and one of the most complicated projects in Qatar that were done was the Qatar Faculty of Islamic Study. A lot of complexity on the facade. Maybe the slide showcased better the facade. All the elements that you can see there that envelop this project were done by Technical Glass. Again, a fully unitized solution with the glass and the aluminium was assembled in factory and erected on site. Complexity of irregular shapes, as you can see, even with the glass, very irregular shapes, and all the calligraphy and the Islamic writing were done in the factories, in Technical Glass factories, and then assembled and installed on site. The Formula One circuit, we've completed the Yas Marina Formula One circuit in Abu Dhabi, along with the hotels around it. The Doha, also Formula One circuit, it's not there the slide, but was done by Technical Glass as well. The Creek Gate project, the Wassel Tower, as you probably all know, Wassel Tower is one of the most recent, very iconic projects that shaped our Dubai skyline recently. Again, an iconic project with the great help of Guardian, with the right product supplied by Guardian for this project, making this project even look better and better. A huge complexity when it comes to engineering, a twisted tower, wood bent, unitized panel, laminated, printed glass. Again, fully unitized, assembled at our factories with all the elements that you can see, the terracottas, the fins, the lined elements, because also there are light elements in the facade, also assembled everything in Technical Glass factories. About 5 or 10% balance of this project to be completed, happily, successfully completed by us, with a great emphasis on the engineering that was done, which is a huge part of it, or the majority of part of it, done in Technical Glass or at our engineering departments, which again is a key part of our success, having such a strong engineering department. Masdar City at the moment also supplying this project in Abu Dhabi, in Saad Riyadh, and Sidra Medical and Research Center, another iconic project in Doha. The Panda House in Doha, Carnegie Mellon University, the Fairmont Resort in Dubai, Wayne Varner Medical College, Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. It's a little bit of an old project, but also one of the iconic projects that was done in Abu Dhabi. Marina Apartments, the W Hotel on the Paul, the Four Seasons Hotel and the IFC, the Creek Harbor area. Again, the first 6 towers that were done on the Creek Harbor were supplied by Technical Glass. And that would be basically about it. Just wanted to share with you a small glimpse, a quick one on Technical Glass. And I will go back to Phil. Thank you, Phil. And I would like to mention Technical Glass has also partnered with the biggest suppliers in the glass industry around the world. Having such a factory and such processing ability wouldn't be possible without the support of our suppliers. And it's a chance for me to again and again say thank you to Guardian. Has been always one of our leading suppliers with an amazing range of products that would fulfill any demand, I can say. We've worked very closely with them, and Technical Glass is an elite certified processor from Guardian, which is the highest certification that Guardian provides to any glass processor. Thank you again, guys. Thank you, Phil. Give this panel back to you. Thank you.
Wonderful news about the entrance to the Saudi Arabian market for TGAC. I think that's a fantastic step. And I do know that they've already secured several projects in that region. So we'll hear some very exciting news coming from Saudi Arabia for TGAC in the future. Well, Jasmine Hodgic, the marketing director for Guardian Industries for Europe and the Middle East, is with us. And Jasmine, why don't you please give us an introduction to Guardian Industries? I'm very curious to see what's going on in the world of Guardian today.
Hey, first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this knowledge sharing session. First of all, Phil, thank you very much for organizing, facilitating this. It's always exciting to be part of your shows, I would say. And a big thank you to Mazen and Technical Glass and Aluminium for partnering with us. As Mazen mentioned, Technical Glass and Aluminium are Guardian Select Elite Partners, which is the highest tier of our clients. And when I see all the projects that Mazen you shared with us previously, well, I'm very pleased, very happy, and thankful that we could have made many of those together, and hopefully we together we made it possible also to realize this architectural dream. So let me start by just a quick introduction about Guardian Glass in just a couple of minutes. Well, Guardian Glass, it's one of the largest glass producers and innovators in the world. We have been working with glass since 1932, so almost now close to 100 years. And yet the limitless potential of this amazing material still fascinate and inspire us every single day. Guardian Glass, it's operated by one of the world's largest privately owned company called Koch Industries. And as of today, we are very proud of our local presence in the Africa Middle East region, where we started our first facility in 1996, so more than 25 years ago, in Al Jubail in eastern province of Saudi Arabia. By the way, our team at that factory at Gulf Guard in Al Jubail, Saudi Arabia, have reached a significant milestone of 25 years in production, as well as a recent completion of a major expansion project, which was a quite significant investment that included a complex cold tank repair, or if you want, a rebuild of the furnace, because the float, let's say after 15 to 18 to 20 years of production, needs to be stopped, cooled down, demolished, and rebuilt. So taking into consideration the market, the growing market demand, we took opportunity with this recent rebuild to increase our capacity by 44%, which is quite significant. So our goal in Guardian is to push the boundaries of glass like never before, with new technologies, new collaboration, like what Mazen was explaining before, and new discoveries. We are boldly challenging the status quo, creating beautiful environments and providing safe, durable, and inspiring solution in today's global glass industry. We call this effort See What's Possible. So if you follow Guardian on LinkedIn, for example, you will see What's Possible. This is where we invite our employees and customers to be part of it and really change the world. Today's modern architectural glass is much more than just a transparent material that will let in a natural light and protect us from different elements. It can offer so much more. Ranging from thermal insulation, solar control, sound reduction, safety, and security. And we have a quite extensive range of solutions that you do not need to compromise on one to satisfy the other. I think we will talk later a little bit more about it. So there are so many options to choose from to make sure that both performance and aesthetics are reached per your requirements. So to help us understand how glass can be applied in a building, to help meet the aesthetics and the energy and performance requirements while contributing to occupants' comfort, I will now leave you with our expert, Karim, that Phil introduced before. And Karim is going to tell us a little bit more about those critical criteria that you need to be particularly careful about to make sure that you choose the right glass solution for your building facade. With this, thank you very much. Phil,
As I said, Jasmine, before you leave us, before you go,
Yep.
I've had a 35-year association to the glass industry. I've heard some rumors with regard to some further developments for Guardian in Saudi Arabia. Is that something that we can discuss?
As I mentioned before, we go, first of all, we have in Africa, Middle East region, we have 3 locations, right? One in Ras Al Khaimah, one in Saudi Arabia, in Al Jubail, as I mentioned, and one in Egypt. So the recent increase of 44% in Saudi Arabia, we still see that there is a growing demand, and what we are doing right now, it is exploring the opportunity for another factory in the kingdom, in Saudi Arabia. So I hope. I know you are. I don't need to say stay tuned. I know you are. So hopefully, we will bring more news to this soon in the near future.
All right, fantastic. Well, understanding glass performance has always been something difficult for architects, especially as we've seen new products coming to the market constantly from multiple manufacturers. It's always difficult to decide on the aesthetics and the performance values of glass, and what does that mean? So these sales guys come to you and show you a screen of all sorts of performance data, and it's very difficult to truly understand what that is unless you're a specialist like Karim. And we've asked him today to just explain some of the terminologies about glass performance. Karim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Phil, for the introduction. I'm just going to be sharing my screen. Before we start, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the introduction, Phil. Thanks a lot for allowing us to be here. Mazen, Yasmin, also great pleasure being with you. Usually this presentation takes about 40 minutes to go through. I decided to make it a brief just so that we go through the basics. But at the same time, we are more than happy to meet with you personally. It's very nice to see a lot of friendly names, or recognize a lot of friendly names. But for those of you who don't know me, here I am. And we look forward to meeting you in person if you have any other questions. I've been doing this for about 15 years now, working closely with architects, with consultants, with developers on basically selecting the right glass for their project. I've worked on projects all over the world. I've seen a lot of interesting things come up. I've seen a lot of changes, especially in a dynamic city like the one we live in, Dubai. So it's always interesting to see the products that we're working on behind the screen or on a data sheet, but also seeing them in person on a finalized product. This is going to be a brief introduction to glass terminology, and basically the questions that we frequently ask ourselves when we are selecting the right type of glass for any project we go through or we work on with our clients. Just in case you still have some questions, we have the last 20 minutes of this presentation or this panel to go through any questions you might have. But also I invite you all to log on to our resource hub on our Guardian Glass in the Middle East website, where you can also have access to glass analytics. You can get a look at some performance calculations, some glass visualization, so seeing what these numbers would look like on an actual building. You also have access to some of our tools, like the specification tools, where it helps you write down the specs and include it in your document and all of that. So the way to log on to the resource hub is either by scanning the barcode now or by going onto our Middle East website, or if you just put Guardian Resource Hub and you'll have access to this. So basically, why are we all discussing this material that was, I'm very proud to say, was discovered around 4,000 years ago in my part of town, so in the coastal side of Syria. Why do we use glass now, and why don't we just replace it with natural stone and walls? Basically, as Yasmin mentioned, we are using glass to allow natural light to come into our houses, to give us that positive energy, to give us that feeling that we are in contact with the elements. Number two, we are using glass, especially in our modern buildings, to see through it. So it's not just allowing light to go in, but also to be able to see through it while being protected from the elements. So also, yes, Yasmin mentioned elements can be hot or cold. It can be wild animals. It can be burglars trying to get into your building. It can be sound and noise and all of that. And finally, and this is very relevant to modern designs, glass is the dress that covers our building. Okay, so many of the buildings that we consider iconic today, the modern one, when we consider them, when we look at them, the first thing we see is glass. So it interacts with our vision depending on the color, the reflection, the shape of the panels, and so on and so forth. So as I mentioned, we're going to go through some terminology we usually see when we're discussing types of glass. So in a nutshell, gonna get straight to it. The first number that's usually next to a type of coating or a type of glass that we propose to our clients is the visible light transmit. And this is a number that's in percentage usually, and it signifies the amount of light that's going through that certain composition of glass. So let's say if the number is 40, that means your glass is blocking 60% of the light and allowing for 40% of the light to go through. Okay, now that's visible light transmittance. Second number we consider usually is the solar heat gain coefficient. I can read to you what it means, but basically any amount of light that's going through a DGU or through a glass unit carries with it some sort of heat, all right? So the solar heat gain coefficient is basically a number that signifies how much heat is going through that panel. So the higher the number, the worse the performance is in this part of the world. Because as we need to always remember, we're working in a climate where we want to block the heat from entering the building and we want to keep the buildings cool, okay? This number is always related to another number called shading coefficient, and shading coefficient is a comparison of the solar heat gain coefficient of a particular type of glass compared to a 3 mm thick clear glass, which has an SHGC of 0.87. That's why when we always divide SHGC of any type of glass by 0.87, we get to that shading coefficient. So if we have one number, we have the other. And always the higher the number, that means the more heat is going through. Now, U value. U value basically is an indicator of the conductive heat gain of going through a unit. Basically, it's the hot air touching the outer panel, the outer skin of the glass, heating up the outer panel, heating up the air gap in between, heating up then the inner pane, and then transmitting that heat towards the inside, right? A more modern terminology, or something that we've been encountering more and more now, is the comparison of low iron and clear glass. When we look at low iron glass, we usually see the edge of it as transparent, and we don't see that green edge. So that's basically the main difference between ultra clear, what our brand name for low iron is, and clear glass. Okay. Now, the addition of that iron makes the glass a little bit more green, or actually the subtraction of it makes the glass a little bit more transparent. Now, in countries where we have a building code that dictates that we need to have a strong shading coefficient, usually the coating compensates or masks any use of ultra clear or clear glass. But in balustrades and thicker units, if the designers or the architects usually want to avoid that greenish appearance, they prefer to go towards low iron glass. All right. Now that we went through some of the basics, we're just going to ask ourselves the usual ABC questions we consider when we're going through our entire product range to finally find a perfect solution for a specific project on which glass to use. So there are basically 4 questions that we always ask ourselves anytime we're encountered with a new product. Where is my building located? And that's important for 2 reasons. We're going to go through them in a bit. What is the use of my building? So basically the design, the building use. What is the orientation of my facades? And question number 4 is, what is the design intent of my building? Okay, now, where is my building located? This is important, as we mentioned, for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is it's always important, it's always relevant to know where your building is going to be located, to know what kind of elements you're dealing with. Over here, we see 2 examples of buildings. very successful buildings, one has a VLT, light transmittance of about 60%, 63%, and that building is located in Germany, a country that has strong winters, harsh winters, where many days of the year it's a little bit gloomy. So you're actually looking for that light, additional light to go into your building. And we have, in comparison, Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, fully exposed from all sides, with no shading elements protecting it except for the glass facade. All right? So imagine having that same glass that's used in Germany. And if you look closely at the picture, even in Germany, they have some internal shading elements next to the facade to help with some of those days where it's really clear and that amount of light is a bit too much. But if you had that same type of glass installed on the Burj Khalifa, then you would have all of the tenants of Burj Khalifa really in an uncomfortable position because of the extra amount of light, the glare coming in, and because of all that heat that's being carried with that light. Now, the number two reason why the location of the building is important is straight and simple building codes. I can compare two geographical locations that are next to each other that have very similar climates. Let's consider Abu Dhabi and Dubai, but where the building codes are slightly different. When you design a building in Dubai and then you try to apply that same design, that same selection to Abu Dhabi, sometimes the building codes, the slight differences between them can tell you if that glass is compliant in one location and not compliant in the other. So it's always very important to know where your building is going to be implemented or built so that you're aware of the circumstances. Another question that we ask ourselves when we're selecting the right glass is, what is the use of my building? Okay, so in commercial buildings where people are looking to rent out most of their floors, most of the area to offices, or even if I'm building my own office, I want my employees to fill out the most amount of area and on my floors. It's very important for the employees inside to be very comfortable, just so that I can place people next to my windows. Otherwise, I would be losing floor space that costs money right next to my windows. So imagine if you have in this part of the world where we have abundant amount of light going through the IGUs, people working on their screens, people working on their white papers, right next to a window that allows 50% of light to go through. They would be very uncomfortable. They would be annoyed by the heat and the glare. And this way they would push their desks away from the windows. And therefore the builder or the developer would be losing floor space. Residential, on the other hand, you would want a little bit more of VLT or visible light transmittance to go through your openings, depending on the size of the openings as well, just so that you get that feeling of good energy when you walk into an apartment. We can all relate to when we walk into our apartments. If it's too gloomy, you feel a bit down, whereas if you have floor-to-ceiling windows, you feel more energetic and better, and especially like when you wake up in the morning and all of those attributes related to human feelings. In retail, the use of glass or the intent of the glass is to show without any interruption what are the colors and the items displayed behind that glass. So it's very important to have the highest light transmittance possible, the lowest interruption, to see the colors as true as possible to if they were displayed without any interruption, without any facade. And finally, at airports, it's always important to make sure that the glass has an outdoor reflection that is generally low. And this is because not to bother the landing pilots, the landing planes, from the reflection generated by those buildings. So it always is important to get to know what is the use of this building, just to make sure that our selection is the right one. Now, also the orientation of the facade is very important. If I have in this part of the world two identical buildings, but where one huge opening is facing south side and on the other building it's right next to it, but that huge opening is facing the north side, the two buildings would react very differently to the heat and to the elements and to the sun path going through the facades. That's why here at Guardian, we help with that. We have our technical hub where we can help you with reports when it comes to building energy calculations, overall glazing calculation, support during the glass processing, thermal system, full thermal system calculator where you combine the U values of the glass, so center of pain with the U value of the frame itself, and many other reports as well, acoustic, structural, wind load, and all of that. So that's another thing to consider. And finally, and the most important, I think this is the point that's the most relevant with all of the architects and developers, because basically they're creating something that's has part of their contribution, their artistic contribution in it, and they want to make sure that what we are giving them hits the nail on the head, especially when we're talking about the aesthetics of the building. I can mention here 2 projects. One of them is a project in Saudi Arabia. It's a twisting tower where the reflection of the glass is on purpose, the outer reflection of the glass is on purpose made high, so that this twisting building has that shape of a twisting sword or a twisting needle in the middle of the desert. Whereas the other building we can see on the left side, it's a building in France where that curved facade needs to have as much light go through it with as little reflection generated by the glass, just so that you are still able to see what's going through inside the building through the waviness of the facade. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of other examples on why it's important to get to know what our selection looks like so that it works well with your design. Here we have the constant issue of low indoor reflection. As you know, glass without any coating, once it's double glazed, has a reflection of 15%. So from the inside and the outside. But any reflection that below 15%, we consider it in the low indoor reflection bracket. That's why it's important to have low indoor reflection, especially on residential buildings. Imagine when you walk into your apartment building, when you walk into your house at night, you turn on the lights, especially in places like Dubai or Saudi Arabia, where you are paying a premium for the location of your building. You want to be able to enjoy the view through the facade and not see your own reflection. Okay, that's why we always focus on an indoor reflection that below 15, specifically on buildings that will be inhabited at night. Here we can see a project in Poland, I believe, where even at night, it's fully glazed. You are still able to enjoy the view from through it when it's dark and gloomy outside. And this is because of the low indoor reflection. Another product that we've developed and we keep on updating, which is our Guardian Clarity. Now, this is an anti-reflective coating that we apply. It can help with the bringing down any sort of reflection. The usual use of this coating is in museums where you would want to protect pieces of art with as little interruption as possible. I can tell you of a recent anecdote where somebody threw a can of soup, I think, at the Mona Lisa, and then they were surprised that they couldn't hit it because there was some sort of protection on the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa was protected with our Guardian Clarity, which made it as transparent as possible, but still was able to protect that precious piece of art from vandalism or from other harmful elements. Again, related to the aesthetics of the glass, I can tell you of one of my favorite buildings here in Dubai, and I think that's the Amar Boulevard Plaza, the 2 buildings in downtown, where you have a full facade glazed with blue glass next to silver glass next to gray glass. Walking or driving next to it, I always thought that was one of the best. Those 2 buildings were one of the some of the best looking buildings in Dubai, until I once had a meeting in them. It was a full floor office, and as we were walking next to the facade, the light going through the panels, through the blue glass and through the gray glass and then through the reflective silver glass, was making me dizzy. It's just because of all of that light going through it was colored with the main glass color. Okay, so on that same floor, you were getting rays of blue glass and then rays of rays of blue light, rays of clear light, and rays of gray light. We've developed or we've adopted a certain strategy a while back, which is to apply all of our coatings on clear glass. That doesn't mean you don't get any color on your buildings. This is a very clear example where you have 3 colors next to each other, gold, silver, and gray, but we were able to achieve all of these colors using a base clear glass. But all of these colors were done by our coating technology, okay? Now you can see the difference or the contrast from the outside, but when you're walking next to the facade inside, you're not bothered by the different colors, and you can see that it's a uniform appearance from the inside. Here we have a look on it from the outside, the comparison between coated clear glass, so basically creating the color through the coating or creating the color through the base glass itself. Now, whether you like it or not, it's a subjective matter, specifically from the outside. It's up to you. I personally prefer the colors on the left side. I find that they are more vibrant, more crisp, whereas I see that the colors on the right side are a little bit more dull and dark. But again, I'm not trying to impose my point of view. That's subjective to you. But let me show you the picture from the inside. You can see then, still on the left side, when all of these different colors are applied on clear glass, you get somehow a uniform appearance looking through the glass, okay? Whereas when you're using colored base glass, and you're looking at different colors from the inside, you can see that the sky looks a little bit more blue or a little bit more green or a little bit more gray, depending on the base of the glass that you're using. Now imagine if you're using bronze glass and you're looking at the sky and you would see it a little bit bronze. That wouldn't be a very healthy thing or a very healthy factor. It's usually, or it wasn't one of the questions that we were always asked. It was more of a after sales or logistics question. But this matter of reliability, that's why it's highlighted in red, became a very strong consideration, especially during the Corona time. As you know, Dubai is a metropolitan city, and the entire region is attracting all sorts of building material from all over the world. All of a sudden, every shipping line was stopped, and all of those projects and buildings that were being glazed with products coming from abroad had no supply to finish or to complete their facades. So it's always something to consider, that go with a supplier that's close to you. Don't go with a supplier that's reliable. I here have a very good example of a building that was completed in, I believe, 2008, 2009, which is the Address Hotel in downtown Dubai. Now, as you know, unfortunately, on New Year's Eve of 2015, 2016, there was a huge fire. This building was glazed from our factory in Luxembourg. We did not have a coating facility in the region at the time, so we had to get all of our coated glass, the glass that went on the facades, from our factory in Luxembourg. Now, after that fire, about 50 to 60% of the facade had to be replaced, and we were able to replace it from our factory in Ras Al Khaimah. Now, the advantage that this brings is that the same project with the same facade has the same type of glass produced in 2 different locations, placed next to each other, and that look identical. I can give you other examples of buildings that are almost 30 years old in the region where we are still supplying replacement panels for those buildings. So always, when selecting the type of glass, don't just think about completing the building, think about the lifetime of the building and how you would be able to get replacement panels if required or if something happens. Now, I'm going to go through very briefly. I think we're good on time, Phil. Some of the recent developments that we've done. Now, all of the developments that we come up with, we don't do them in-house. It's a collaboration between our regional facilities and our design hub in Carlton, Michigan. All right. So basically, we have a dedicated factory for research and development. So if we see any trend in the market, if we pick up any trend in the market from our clients, from the architect, the people that are actually shaping the cities, we give that feedback to our if you want, management, and then we start working on developing or coming up with new products to meet the trends that are coming up in the region. And we always make sure to give you something that's compliant, something that's trendy, something that would solve a lot of your questions or your challenges, and something that's available in the region. Okay, so something that's local. We recently have developed 2 new products. It's our SN Gray range. We've developed the SN Gray 50, keeping in mind the building codes in Saudi Arabia. So this has an SHGC of 0.25 while still allowing 46% of light to go through the units. And it has a U value of 1.3. And the most important thing about it is that it's giving you that light, neutral gray appearance. Some architects call it smoke glass, while having a low indoor and outdoor reflection. And for those buildings that are above, with a window to wall ratio of above 60% in Dubai, we also have developed the SM Gray 40, which has a shading coefficient of 0.24, while also having a low indoor and outdoor reflection, and also a U value of 1.3. And the best thing about these products, and many more to come, is that they are all produced in the region 100%. Another innovation that we've worked on is the Guardian bird-friendly glass. Now, we have 2 solutions for that. One of them relies on ultraviolet rays that are applied to the glass, that are generated or reflected by the glass, where it's visible to birds but not visible by humans. So this would stop any birds from hitting the facades. And another solution is the bird etch, where we apply small small ceramic acid etched dots onto the surface of the glass to prevent also birds from hitting our facades. In a nutshell, I'm just going to wrap up. I'm showing you here a building. I don't want to name which one, but I'm sure many of you will recognize it. It's a beautiful building, don't get me wrong. It is Guardian glass, so it's not relevant to the supplier, but you can look at the buildings and you can see that most of the facades have their blinds shut. And that's because when the selection for the glass for this building was made, they decided to go with something that has a very high light transmit. Just because it's trendy, just because it works abroad, doesn't mean it's the best solution here. You can see that in this office building, many people have their desks and their tables at least 1 or 2 meters away from the facade. Many of the blinds are shut. And luckily, all of the blinds are uniform and look the same. Imagine if this was a residential building and I had white curtains and my neighbor had yellow curtains and my neighbor downstairs had red curtains, how the building would look like on the outside. So your choice really matters. If you guys have any questions, the time to do it. Apologize for any technical difficulties, but we can be contacted either by scanning the barcode or on our website, or you have Yasmin and my name, and you can get in touch with us whenever you want.
Thank you, Karim. I really appreciate it. There's lots of questions. Can we see a copy of the presentation? I think when we will produce the replay of this webinar, and I'll make sure that we overlay some of those screens from the presentation. So thank you, Karim. Appreciate that. We have quite a few questions that we'd like to get through to in the next few minutes. Guys, if Mazen and Jasmine, if you could join us, that would be fantastic. But Karim, there's a question here. You talked about shading coefficient. What's more important, shading coefficient or U value when deciding on the right glass to choose?
Okay, it's always important to consider the part of the world in which you're working. I think your question is relevant to this part of the world. And over here, we always want to keep our buildings cool and keep that heat that's uncomfortable for humans outside. So whenever we give a data sheet, there is a summary, a number that's summarizing how that unit works at the end, which is the relative heat gain. If you want, that's a combination of what the U value, the higher the number, the worse the performance of the glass is. Okay, so 100 is better than 120. So that number usually summarizes the contribution of shading coefficient, so energy going through, transmitted into the building, and U value, so energy conducted into the building. I can tell you that if I'm giving you, I did this calculation before. Let's consider a glass unit that has a shading coefficient of 0.23 and a glass unit that has a shading coefficient of 0.22. So even a difference of 0.01 on that number has a contribution of about 6.3 watts on the relative heat gain. Whereas an addition of 0.01 on the U value has a marginal contribution of 0.4 on watts on the relative heat gain. In a nutshell, shading coefficient is much more important just because we have an abundance of light and an abundance of heat coming through with that light in this region. Now remember, U value means hot air is touching the surface of the glass and it's heating the inside of the unit and heating the inside of the building. For 4 or 5 months of the year, the comfortable temperatures inside the building are exactly the same as the comfort temperature outside the building. So let's say in winters in Dubai, we have a temperature set on our AC that's 23, 24 inside, and we have that same temperature outside. So basically, the U value is not doing anything during those months. So shading coefficient is a much bigger contributor to heat gain in this part of the world.
I think in some of our future webinars here at Technical Glass and Aluminium, we do plan to sort of bring some educational support for the architectural community and those that are recently joining the glass industry. We'll dig deeper into some of those terminologies as we move forward. There's an interesting question from a guest with regard to fire resistance or fire retardant of glass coatings. I know the answer to this, but is there a concern with regard to fire and coatings that are put on glass?
Definitely, Phil. This is a ever-changing topic in the region here. Codes are changing regularly when it comes to fire-rated solutions on facades, and always proactively trying to eliminate any reasons that might make a fire spread through a building. And one of the solutions or one of the key elements, again, because the facade, whether it is the glass or the other elements in the facade, are the key elements in the envelope itself. Now, when it comes to glass, yes, definitely there are solutions that help preventing fire from spreading. In technical glass, especially with our fire-rated factory, we do have solutions that cater for whatever codes that the civil defense in Dubai or in the UAE and even in the Gulf states are dictating year after year to make sure that safety-wise is maintained when you are designing any facade. And those range depending on because each building and each area within a building has a different code, whether you are required to apply what we call a integrity-only insulation, where your glass should protect, the fire should not spread from one area to another area, the heat will still spread. And then there is a higher solution that is sometimes being dictated in other areas where there is a requirement for an integrity and insulation application for a glass and a certain opening. And here, when we say integrity and insulation, this means you are protecting an area from the fire and the heat as well from spreading. Simply, you can touch the glass from one side, even though the fire is from the other side, but you can still touch the glass and wouldn't feel the heat. There are different ratings when it comes here and different time lapses from 30 minutes up to 120 minutes insulation when it comes to fire-rated applications. The question, I think, was related to coatings. Here, the game is not about the coating you apply on the glass. When you talk fire-rated, you're talking at a completely different range of products. Sometimes certain material has to be inserted between glass panels, some kind of gel that would withhold the fire and the heat from passing on. There's a huge testing that is being regularly done year after year by Technical Glass with certified testing facilities to test those products. But it's very important to highlight that it's not only a glass. It should be the full system to provide you the fire rating insulation. You cannot put a glass and put around it just a normal aluminium or a normal steel. It has to be also a fire rated full solution, including the whatever you're using, whether it is a timber, a metal, or an aluminium, to insulate an area from the fire. All these solutions are available at Technical Glass at any rating, at any desired solution, all tested and all civil defense certified. So yes, we do cater for this in the whole region, and we are registered with the civil defense in the different regions here.
Yeah. One question that's asked quite often from architects is how much light transmission is required for the building. Architects read lots of journals and they think that, they want lots of light coming into the building. And so, having clear glass is an ideal option. But in the Middle East, that's different. Jasmine, you've been in the region for a long time. What's your opinion on this? How much visible light transmission should an architect be working with when designing their building?
That's an interesting question. Thank you. So, and there is no straightforward answer like that particular, right? So it will depend on different, I think Karim and Mazen also touched on, building orientation, the ratio, glass to wall ratios. Obviously, it's different if you have only 20-30% of glass or you have a fully glazed building. But let's say if I would take, some typical buildings where we have more than 60% of glass on the building, the ratio of light transmission to avoid glare, would be somewhere around 40%. And that's what Karim mentioned. For example, in our range, we have now this SN40 gray. So that on one side, it's satisfying neutrality, which is a trend today, and in the last couple of years. And at the same time, it's providing the right amount of light. At the same time, we don't need to compromise anymore on solar heat gain coefficient, because in the past, the performance was not as good as today. Today, with the selectivity of the coatings, we can very well keep, the solar heat gain coefficient close to 20 with 40% of light transmission. So that's what I would say here in the region. Sometimes we see those issues when sometimes architects are from other part of the world, and they would use typically what they would use in Europe or in North America. We try to make them understand that 70% of light on a fully glazed building might be a big issue.
Well, this is Karim smiling because he knows my opinion on this. It is a subject that we could discuss for an entire webinar. I personally don't agree that 40% is the right number. I think that is too much visible light transmission. I'll give you an example. The Burj Khalifa has a beautiful glass applied to it. The visible light transmission is
18%.
18%, right?
I mean, it's 20, and then you add different thicknesses, right? So because the glass, the higher you go, the thicker. So there is around 18%, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a combination of the size of the window in the space. And most building designs in this region have lots of glass. It's the whole facade that is glass mostly these days. And so it is subjective, and it's very much an opinion on the project. But there's a lot more to this. It's just not a matter of saying this number.
Yeah, definitely. No, this is what I said. There is no straightforward number. If we take a typical building, Burj Khalifa, it's not a typical building, and it doesn't. After a certain height, there is nothing around, so it's fully exposed. So definitely, you have to be careful with that. So this was a predominantly the decision maker, because you say, okay, above, let's say 300 meters, I don't have anything around. I have nothing that makes any shade to the building, right? So, and then you cannot say, hey, I will have 20% on the top and then 40 at the bottom. That does not work. No, you need the same glass. So, again, it's never, one building doesn't make it a rule, right? But however, this is what we see today. If I look at even our sales in the region, and when I say in the region, let's talk about GCC, with a similar climate, the 40 range, it's by far the most represented here.
The highest demand, I fully agree. That's what we see more or less, yes.
Well, I think that number should be more like 10 or 15%. That's my opinion, and I'm allowed to hold it. I can prove it, but you're welcome to discuss that afterwards. There is an interesting question here with regard to the cost of reflective glass. You have a range of products. You have some products that are classified better than others. Is there a big difference in price when it comes to the supply of glass products? I mean, yes, let's say we have a double glazed unit, 612-6, with a coating, all right? And so we have an excellent coating and a different type of coating. Is there a big price difference today between these options?
I think what people need to understand, really, there is a lot of value added to the base glass, right? So what we produce is a base glass with a coating, for example, okay? And that glass goes to Technical Glass, for example. They are going to cut it to size. They are going to temper it, maybe laminate it, maybe do some silk screen on the or digital printing on the top of it.
No, excuse me. No, maybe they can do all of those things. No, the fully equipped to change about. No, maybe here, Jasmine, we do everything.
Yeah, definitely. But and if you look at all this additional value that is being added to the glass, it's not fair to say, hey, at our level, there is some difference which might not be huge, but this multiplied by many other applications or adding value that our customers are doing, this is what is going to make a difference, really, in the end of the day as a finished product, if you want. So yes, there is a difference. I don't think there is a significant difference. It's always, for me, a kind of an investment. I can tell you, for example, we recently converted almost close to 100,000 square meters residential project in Saudi Arabia from a basic HD colors, very simple, very, very simple residential coating into double silver. Okay, so of course it's more expensive, absolutely. However, when you do a calculation on all the ROI, it shows that after 3 years, this is paid back, and your savings on energy are such that after 3 or 4 years, it becomes absolutely more interesting to have this type of glass than, let's say, cheaper type of glass that was initially foreseen.
Well, I love the Guardian HD Colors range. I think that's a wonderful product. I was involved with the development of that glass coating many years ago, and I'm glad to see that it's still a prominently used product throughout the region, which is fantastic.
I just want to add quickly, Phil, on that question that was raised, and it was related also to the cost of applying a film instead of a coating. It's an option that is available in the market. It does not fulfill, just to be very clear, does not fulfill and does not definitely give the same result as what the coating does. A lot of limitations, and when we're talking about coatings, we're talking about development that has been going for years and years and years. We're talking about perfect thermal insulation. We're talking aesthetically, and plus we're talking about limitations when it comes to sizes. The film, if you have a big piece, you might have to simply put the films together. You'll have a line showing, as opposed to having one uniform big sheet of a coated glass, achieving the thermal properties. And definitely this becomes something that is cooked on the surface of the glass.
But there's also an extremely there's an extreme between putting that film on surface two. Let's say you have a double glazed unit in your building. You have 4 surfaces. The inside surface of the outside glass is typically where we would use a reflective coating.
Yes.
If you were to put a reflective or a tinted coating on the 4th surface, the inside panel, the performance of that coating is far less than if it was on surface
definitely
the outside panel.
Definitely. And you'll have scratches, removable film, all these things, which definitely does not help.
It's really interesting. Architects are looking for the balance between the aesthetics and the considerations for performance metrics on the project. There's a question here for that, and that's why we've brought in these experts from Guardian and Mazen to help guide you through this selection process. I've seen Mazen walk out of the office with, 45 samples under his arm, just because the architect wanted to see 44 samples, right? And so It's a matter of choice, and there are a lot of products available, and it's finding the right aesthetics. That's the number one. How do you want your building to look? And then the performance, and how does that look on site? And quite often, the product is fitted to the facade before the final decision is made by the consultant in a mock-up. And so I know the suppliers of Guardian and Technical Glass and Aluminium work with their clients and the architects of those project designs to ensure that the right product is installed, so that your choice is correct. Well, we've discussed a lot of the market trends today. We've heard that Guardian's doing some fantastic work in the region. Is there one particular product that is a best seller for Guardian in the Middle East today, Jasmine?
I have to tell you that, for a very long time, we had this Silver 20, which is on Burj Khalifa. It was absolutely, I think, all-time bestseller because, I believe everyone, once it was erected on Burj Khalifa, everybody wanted to have that glass even at home. So that contributed a lot. But if I would say, if I look at the recent past, the SN40 Gray becomes really starts to take the lead very seriously, and we see that into already available sales, but also in the amount of specification. Okay, I mean for a product that was launched a year ago, a bit more than a year ago, the amount of specification already, it's absolutely tremendous. I mean it's going beyond any expectation we could have for such a short period of time. And this is thanks to the performance on one side, but also this neutrality of the coating, which is all clear film. It's not on body tinted, so it's very easily available. It's absolutely repeatable. Even if you change after 7 years, let's say a broken panel, you will have exactly the same glass on your building. And this trend, for neutrality, we have seen that in the last couple of years, people are going away mainly from strongly colored glasses and going more toward, let's say, neutrality. But then neutrality might be difficult to define, so it's kind of grayish, right? And the beauty of this SN Gray 40, it's also that from any angle, even sometimes if you move to the angle 60 degrees you look at, or if you look from the bottom up, the color might change. Here we are really very, very stable color. The other important thing is internal reflection. That's a big difference between Middle East and the rest of the world, I would say. In Europe, people would not mind, high reflection inside, which would create, the mirror effect. Here in the region, basically the requirement is that to be, as low as possible, but in any case lower than 15%, which this coating absolutely satisfies. So that's where we are going.
Karim, what's your most favorite product in the Guardian range today?
Well, I can tell you I have a couple of favorites, but I'm going to I'll not give you just one. Basically, glass, the same type of glass applied on two buildings that have different designs would look different. Okay? That's why, as Yasmin mentioned, when we supplied Silver 20 on the Burj Khalifa, everybody wanted it at home. And then they were shocked that their villa doesn't look like Burj Khalifa. It's just because the shape of the building, the design of the building was different. So we have to keep in mind that glass is a reactive material. So it's not my favorite type of glass. What works best on this particular design or on this particular project.
Okay, very good, very good.
Yeah.
There's a very interesting question here from Mohammed, and he's talking about ceramic coating on glass as you would use in a spandrel, but when that product is used in a vision panel, you see pinholes through the coating. This is a question that I've seen disasters about in my career, but he's asked what can be done about this. Well, the pinhole that you're seeing, Mohammed, is because of the ceramic coating being applied using a screen printing process, which many manufacturers do. Mazen, you have a solution for this.
Definitely.
About your roller coating application?
Yeah, definitely. just to mention something about ceramic application, ceramic definitely can be applied on visual panels in different patterns and different designs, whether it is lines, whether it is dot design. A lot of this is being applied on skylights. Also, it's a huge factor that can help reducing the shading coefficient as well, because you're reducing the area where the light is passing through your panel, basically. But as Phil mentioned, many of the factories or many of the glass processors use screens to apply certain designs on the glass when it is a visual panel. We use a completely different technology, completely different process. We use a state-of-the-art, and Muhammad, I would love for you to pass by anytime so that I can give you a round in the factory where you can see these things in practice. Actually, we use a digital printer that use printing heads. It's simply a printer that would print any design you would give it exactly on the area that you want it to be printed in, any diameter, if it is a dot design, without leaving what we call spread of the paint or of the ceramic around the areas where you're printing. I think this is what you're referring to as pinholes, or you're seeing some scattered paint maybe around the area you're printing. Using a digital printing completely avoids the solution. When we are printing, we print in a fully isolated environment. So usually don't even allow people to walk into these areas because we want it to be fully dust-free, even not to leave any traces on the glass surfaces. All these things are extremely important to get a good product. And even recently with new technologies, you can even print on the coatings themselves. There are certain coatings that are compatible with the ceramic application that we use. So I think it's about the processing. You need to make sure that the glass is being processed in a factory that is perfectly equipped and ready to process such kind of applications.
Wonderful. As well, it's been great to have you guys with us. We've gone over time. We had some limit, but everyone stayed with us. I really appreciate everyone that's joined us today, and they've stayed here. It's been great discussion. And we have so many more questions that I wish we had time to answer. Questions with regard to getting samples from Guardian, and the answer is yes. You can speak to Mazen at TGAC. He'll organize questions about heat load on glass, and questions about comparing the strength of glass with bullet-resistant glass. We'll get to those questions. We'll send a reply to you. Really appreciate it. But we thank you all for joining us today. The panel, Karim, Jasmine, Mazen, thank you so much for your time. It's been a very good discussion, great presentations. We're going to end it here now, and Karim is going to go to PowerPoint presentation school next week. So his next PowerPoint presentation will be perfect. We'll make sure we update that on our replay, and we'll get a copy of that presentation to you. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for staying with us for the duration of this webinar. We look forward to you hooking in with us again as we look at other examples or needs for understanding glass performance in the Middle East region. Well,
thank you, Phil.
That's been brought to you by Technical Glass and Aluminium, and it's fantastic that you can join us, and we wish you a fantastic day.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you guys again for everything.
Thank you.
As Karim said, we're always here to help, to assist. Any questions, any concerns, any technical sample support, any selections between us and Guardian, we're always happy to help. Feel free to reach us anytime. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Karim, Phil.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.